Inside the Birds is back. What's going on, everyone? It is Geoff, Mosher, and Adam Caplan. And as always, there's a lot of ground to cover. I tell you, it may not be as much newsworthy stuff as the week before or the week before that, Adam, but it's, doing the podcast 3 times a week right now, very necessary because there's a lot of stuff to cover. We are still waiting as of, Wednesday night, although most people will
Tuesday morning. Wednesday morning.
Yeah, Wednesday morning. People listen to it. Still waiting to hear when the Eagles are going to have an introductory press conference for Nick Sirianni, unless you have some inside info on that.
Oh, yeah. Here's what's going on. So this typically happens. So he got into town Monday morning.
Mm-hmm.
He's got to hire staff, which we're gonna develop more of the information we had from our Monday morning show. We really appreciate the listenership. We hit an all-time numbers on these shows.
Thanks,
people
everyone.
love his coaching stuff, man. It's obvious. So we'll get into that in a minute. But he needs time. He's got a lot of ground to make up. You got to understand. I know he went in to his interview with a full list of coaches, but he also has to, as you know, Geoff, he's got to talk to the guys that are still on staff. That not many are going to be retained. It's not going to be like the Doug Pederson thing in 2016. Majority of them are not going to be coming back. But he does want to talk to some of these guys and see if they can bring him back, and we'll get into that. But the bottom line is he's got a lot of work to do. So rather than have a press conference and be asked repeatedly, okay, what are you doing with this guy? What are you doing with that guy? I mean, obviously he could shut it down and say, hey, I'm in the process of interviewing. It's going to happen this week. I know that for a fact. I just don't know what day, because they want him to. He'd like to get, as I understand, he'd like to get a lot of this done. He's got a lot of work to do, man. This is so his development of becoming the Eagles head coach came together so quickly. I mean, it's really he got added late, he got the job late, and that he's got to hit the ground running here.
Yeah, so we know he's got an offensive coordinator, a defensive coordinator, a passing game coordinator, or specialist. But you're right, there's a lot of positions that are left to be determined. As you mentioned a while back with the Joe Brady hire or Joe Brady interview on how Brady had a great cast of coaches, right, that he was hoping to bring in. It's great to have that, but you also have to have the ability to get the guys that you want. And so obviously Sirianni comes in here, and as you mentioned, he's got some guys that he wanted, but it's hard to know who he wants at every single position and whether or not he's able to get them. What I do know is, and kind of as you mentioned, there are coaches on the staff who are holdovers who have spoken to Sirianni, but as of Tuesday night are still waiting to hear what their fates are going to be. So I agree with you. You're right. It doesn't make sense to have this guy have an hour and a half press conference or whatever and do the rounds with everybody, while he's got a lot of very important conversations to have, not only for him, but for the coaches. I feel for the coaches. They're not millionaires, not all of them, and they want to have jobs. And there's really only 2 teams right now looking to really fill out a staff, one of them being the Eagles, the other being the Texans. So jobs start to diminish a little bit, as you've seen with the Lions doing some hiring. The Bears hired a D coordinator, right? So guys want to know. And so that's why it's more important to get that taken care of first. One thing stood out to me. I want to start this off a little bit big picture, and then we'll get into the nuts and bolts of it. And some of what I want to start off, you'll probably have some news on. But from a big picture standpoint, we talked last pod about who Nick Sirianni is bringing in, right? But we really didn't talk about who he's not bringing in. And what I mean by that is when you look at Shane Steichen and you look at John Gannon, young coaches on the rise, just like Nick Sirianni. What you commonly see with a Nick Sirianni-like hire is a young head coach who's a first-time head coach likes to bring in a veteran at either defensive coordinator or offensive coordinator, because it's important to have a guy who's been through those battles on your staff. I mean, Doug Pederson came in and he had Frank Reich and he had Jim Schwartz, right? And he had John DeFilippo. He had some veterans there. You do look at this staff right now, and outside of Jeff Stoutland, who's an offensive line coach, kind of lacking in that cachet area, especially among the big two, the 2 coordinator spots.
Well, no, what it is I think you nailed it.
Experience, I should say.
It's the age. I think that's, to me, is the thing. If you look at the guys that he's bringing in, they're younger guys, late 30s, early 40s. Not that that's young, but not a lot of guys who have pelts on the wall. saying that, okay, who have they developed? Like we talk about Frank Reich, right? I understand he didn't call the plays. He was an offensive coordinator. He didn't really manage the quarterbacks in terms of the room. DeFlippo ran it, but from a big picture, guy to lean on. He was a resource for the head coach Doug Pederson, a really good one, and also for Carson Wentz. We've detailed that for 3 years of the show. Very, very integral. So you make a great point. Who is that guy that we're assuming Carson Wentz is still going to be in the roster? And this is something we'll be talking about over the coming weeks when we're going to take a deep dive in the roster starting next week. It's going to be our first roster show. And that's obviously one of the issues. If Wentz is coming back, how are you going to manage this guy? And we're going to go over the coaches that they have, right. that Sirianni is hired. But I don't know that there's really been a guy that's been around for several years that's developed a quarterback. I know Steichen, who's going to be the offensive coordinator, did a great job with Justin Herbert, but it was really Pep Hamilton was the day-to-day in the room guy. So right. You make a great point, and quite frankly, that ought to be one of the first guys he hires this week, because we know that he had the other guys done over the weekend. But how about getting that veteran coach on here?
Yeah, I mean, you look at like Sean McVay when he got the Rams job. His first defensive coordinator was Wade Phillips, a guy who had been a head coach, who had been a defensive coordinator, been through a lot of battles. Kevin Stefanski, young upcoming head coach. His defensive coordinator this year was a guy who had been a defensive coordinator before. Joe Woods, who had 26 years of coaching. Joe Woods had. So
yes, he's great. And what Stefanski told me is he hired Kevin Rogers, I guess out of retirement, or I don't know what he was doing, but Kevin Rogers was with him for years in Minnesota, and he wanted someone who could be a resource for him.
Right.
So it's very important that I think for a young head coach who he didn't come out of nowhere. People know who he was, but was not even interviewed by another team and is on that fast track to have someone to lean on. And and we'll get into Patullo and why he's here, because he's also a confidant of Sirianni. I know that, but I do think so. I don't want to belabor this point, but I do think it's important.
Yeah, it is. So we'll see in the coming days or weeks if somebody of a little more, experience is brought on. Some minor news from transaction standpoint. I thought it was kind of interesting. The Chiefs, we talked about how the Chiefs had signed Prince Tega Wanogho to their practice squad. He was a 6th-round pick of the Eagles this year. And he got released, even though they actually are down to their backups at left and right tackle. Yeah. If anything, you would have thought he was promoted. Right. Instead, he gets released.
Well, that tells you he's not ready. But so they released him on money from the practice squad, and then they sign him to a reserve future contract, which means he's ineligible for the playoffs. He can't start practicing with them until their OTAs and whenever those dates will be. But look, it shows you the Eagles. The reason why I thought it was important to talk about, the Eagles clearly didn't want him back. So they're admitting that they missed on that one. I mean, I know it's a 6th-round pick, but when you're trying to develop younger players, you would at least like to get them in an offseason. And the hope is that we're going to have a relatively normal offseason. Because the league now, Geoff, they've now gone through a cycle with the COVID issue. They know how it needs to be managed. So why can't they have practices in May? I don't know why they can't do that.
I imagine that they'll probably at least try. I mean, they may wonder if the financial incentive, they have to spend a lot of money on testing. Now, I know this league has $1 billion. It doesn't matter, but they do spend a lot of money on testing, and they may say it's more understandable to do that when you're playing games and you've got your TV revenue still coming through as opposed to off season. I have no idea. I'm just trying to think about why they wouldn't do it, but I agree. I think getting back to normal, things should be. They'll figure out a way, I would imagine, to have this thing go on. From the Chiefs' angle, by them signing Tega Wanogho to a futures contract, that opens up a spot on their practice squad. They have 2 weeks, so maybe they bring in a veteran offensive tackle to the practice squad, right? He's there, able to practice, and then maybe the day before the game, they have to make a move. So I would imagine that would be why they did that.
Yeah, I mean, Martinez Rankins is going to be their left tackle. He started 2 games in his career. He started week 17 for Eric Fisher. Now Fisher tore his Achilles, so he's done. You're right, man. They're down to the nitty gritty at tackle, man. They don't have anyone else. Mike Remmers is still playing. I mean, Mike Remmers is Mr. Journeyman. He's the right tackle. And how about Stefan Wisniewski? 3 out of 4 years, he's looking for a Super Bowl ring. Three
It's
different teams.
unbelievable. I know, it's unbelievable. That guy's just got he was kissed with the right, or blessed with the right fortune to go to the right team at the right time. So God bless him. All right, let's get into some nuts and bolts on the coaching staff. Before we do that, of course, we tell everybody to check out our friends at PHLSportsNation.com, enhancing the fans' experience like nobody else, covering all of the Philadelphia professional sports teams. Make sure you check them out on Twitter at PHL Sports Nation. They are for the fan, by the fan. That's their motto. Great podcast as well. So make sure you're looking at them. PHLSportsNation.com. We'll pause real quick for another word from another great sponsor, including our friends at Sky Motor Cars. All right, let's quickly, Adam, talk about some departures that we know about. I think it's, well, I'll let you weigh in first, but Duce Staley, it's official now. He's going to be with the Lions and no longer an Eagle. So his Eagles coaching career and playing career are both over now.
Yeah, I hope, I don't know Duce. I know you've covered Duce very closely during your days as a beat reporter. But I hope that if the fences need mending, that they'll be mended years down the road. And when they have their next reunion, or the first, I don't know how they, their first reunion of the Super Bowl coaches, the team, and they bring the coaches back, and let's say it's 10 years, you have a 10-year reunion. Mm-hmm. I hope he comes back. I hope everything's okay. It's a shame that he didn't get the Eagles head coaching job, or couldn't stay. I don't blame him for wanting to leave. I have no problem with it. I would have done the same thing, quite frankly. So that is what it is. But I could tell you, I know there were rumors about the Bears and someone shot it down, but I could tell you as a fact, I've confirmed they absolutely was in play for the Bears running backs job. They lost their running backs coach, Charles London, to the Falcons. I think he's going to be their quarterbacks coach, if I'm not mistaken. But anyway, the Bears were definitely interested in him, but he went with the Lions. So he had some choices. He chose the Lions. Dan Campbell's got that 6-year deal. And then obviously Dave Fipp. Though my friend Dave Burkett from
Detroit Free Press.
Detroit Free Press. He said last week that they denied him. Well, they let him go this week because the Lions announced it, that he is now their special teams coach. So it's yet another opening, man. Boy, I'll tell you what, Sirianni's got a lot of work to do, man. There are a lot of openings on the staff.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we talked about there's potentially quarterbacks coach open. There's running backs coach open, tight ends coach because they lost Justin Peel. So, I mean, that's three. All they really have on offense is an offensive line coach, unless Patullo is also going to be in charge of quarterbacks. But I think that they're going to.
Yeah, we'll get into that in a second. Yeah, no doubt.
The funny thing with Duce is, and we were talking about it last pod, I said to you I had heard those rumblings about Chicago as well, but why in the world would Duce want to go to Chicago when it's such a difficult situation there? Those guys are all basically fighting for their lives. I mean, you go there, you might get fired at this time next year. And then he goes and takes a job for a franchise that's not really in that much better of a condition and about to lose their quarterback. But at least, I guess with the new coach, they usually get a couple of years, right? Stability. So maybe there's some security there.
Sure.
But I tell you, man, you put Duce and what's his name, Campbell together. That's a good fit right there. That's some good intensity.
Oh, they're going to be. Anthony Lynn is a run game guy. He's not a pass game guy. They're going to be running like crazy to fit the head coach's thought process. Dan Campbell was not willing to wait for Mike Kafka. They're represented by the same agent. So it's going to be Duce. Anthony Lynn with that run game. Duce is fantastic. He'll do a great job there. And boy, I'll tell you what, Sirianni's got a lot of work to do here. Not a lot of time because this is Senior Bowl week. Most coaches that I know are not going. Each team by rule is only allowed at 10 people per team. So it's no longer the open season for bringing people down because of the COVID issue.
Right. And by the way, if you're DeAndre Swift today, you are like, this is your off season. This is the summer of DeAndre, or the off season of DeAndre. You get Anthony Lynn, you get Duce Staley, you get a head coach who wants to devour people's knees. I mean, they're gonna kneecaps or whatever it is.
Hilarious. It is.
That's funny.
Between Campbell, Duce, and Lynn, they might run the ball 40 times a game if they could.
Definitely.
Campbell, I'm not a Lions guy, but I follow him closely. I do wonder if he's going to try to hide the quarterback and run the football all the time. I hope he learned something from his former boss, Sean Payton. It doesn't work. You got to throw the football, but we'll see.
Well, I mean, if they trade Stafford, logic stands to reason that they'll probably pick a quarterback with their top 10 pick. So maybe they get a guy like Fields, or maybe they get the the BYU kid. And then it's kind of customary to support that guy with a strong running game these days anyway. So it may happen to work out that way. What do you make of Dave Fipp? I just don't know what to make of it because he was good. I don't think he just got bad. Like he became a bad coach. I think that if you go back to last year, the Eagles were starting so many players that should have been core special teamers that Fipp was literally getting whatever's underneath the bottom of the barrel, right? I mean, when Graylin Arnold and Kevon Webster or whatever, or Seymour are playing significant snaps and Michael Jacquet, imagine what that means for him and what he has to work with on special teams. That's not much there.
No, and look, the return game was a joke. Why Rager was not on punts is beyond me. I don't understand. He was probably the best returner last year in college. I don't understand.
You think that was his call? Do you think that was his decision?
I don't know, but that can't happen. That should not happen. I'm sorry. I know he had the 2 injuries, but he got over it. You know what? He's out there playing. He's got to return punts. He's special in that area. Oh my God, is he unreal? He looked like a running back out there. He was so good last year. So they got to get the return game going. Coverage units were not normally as good, and then obviously the kicker had a tough year. So look, the new special teams coach, one of many coaches they need to add here, needs to get the thing going.
Yeah, it's just that I've seen so many kickers, not only with the Eagles but around the league, be not what they were a year or two later, that it's hard for me to pin that on Fipp because it's just kind of a thing with kickers. But, and again, he was down to the bottom of the barrel. And, you know, I would love to know whose call it was to not have Jalen Rager returning all the punts as well. But you start fresh with the new staff. We'll see who they bring in. A story that you and I reported on, I forget what day, Monday or Tuesday, is that Prince Taylor is not going to be back with the team. I don't think that should surprise a lot of people.
No,
at least not in the same role, because Kevin Patullo is going to kind of inherit that role, and there's no connection between Nick Sirianni and Prince Taylor.
Yeah, no. And as we look for the staff here, with Sirianni's got a lot of work to do. I just don't know what his thought process is, how the quarterbacks, you know, the biggest challenge for him is coaching a quarterback that you don't know, you've never worked with before. None of these coaches have. So that's going to be the challenge for this guy with Prince Taylor gone and Doug Pederson gone. How are you going to coach this quarterback? And that to me is a number one issue for the staff.
It is. I totally agree. And by the way, when we say coach the quarterback, I don't think you and I are assuming we know who the quarterback is, right? I mean, they still have the Carson Wentz thing kind of hovering over them.
Yeah, look, I could just tell you what I was told. The gist of the coaches that interviewed was that they were asked about Wentz. They were never told he was definitely staying, but their sense was, boy, the Eagles sound like they want to keep him, but they didn't know for sure. But I could tell you, Arthur Smith in his interview presented a really detailed plan, which wasn't just 30 seconds to a minute. It was actually very detailed. On what his plan to coach Wentz would be. So Arthur Smith.
I would love to have heard that plan. Wouldn't you have loved to?
Yeah,
know
I would have. Oh my
was?
God, I would have loved to have been a fly on the wall. You know, I wish that. You know, it's funny because the Eagles did a great job of. You know, they had that call. They had Sirianni's call on the website when Jeffrey Lurie called him to be the head coach.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I would be great because they had Wentz's combine interview with the Eagles. You know, that was pretty cool, but I would have loved to hear I'd love to hear a coach's one of these interviews with these head coaching candidates. And by the way, you know what we're going to do to get some intel on these kind of interviews? We're going to have Joe Banner on this week.
I can't wait.
Can't wait. So we'll ask him. We're going to hit him up with it, man. What's it like? Give me the questions. What
I've always wondered.
Yeah.
Like, what everything, not just the normal questions, but like, do you surprise guys? I mean, you've seen the combine, right? They certainly surprise guys with questions that they're not ready for because they know.
You know what Andy Reid told me years ago with Juan Castillo when he decided to make him the D coordinator. Again, this is 10 years ago, something like that. Oh God, it's been 10 years ago. We were flying to the combine of the Senior Bowl. There were some times when we were on the same flight. We just happened to be the only two people who were waiting to get on this flight from Philly with a Senior Bowl combine. I said, "Hey, Coach, can I just ask you a question? Like, how did this go? Like, how do you think of it?" He goes, Oh, I gave Juan an hour. I wasn't giving him a day to figure this out. I want him to think on his feet. I was like, what?
That's amazing.
Maybe 3 hours. It was between 1 to 3 hours to prepare. Like, let's say he said, hey, you know what? I'm going to interview for you've always wanted to be a D coordinator. It's 10 a.m. I'll give you to 1 p.m. Something like that. I know it's between 1 and 3 hours. I'm like, that's not enough time, is it? But he did say he wanted him to think on his feet. So,
there you go.
And you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to ask Banner, or either you can ask it or I could ask it. Mm-hmm. Because Joe's told the Michael Vick story when Andy came to his office and said, I want to sign Michael Vick out of jail.
Mm-hmm.
I would love to know what Joe's thought process was when he said Juan Castillo.
Right. You want to promote who to
exactly.
defensive coordinator?
I'm like, wait a minute, hang on a second. What?
That will be a good question. I look forward to that one. By the way, I once sat next to Marty Morningweg out on a flight to the combine.
Ooh, did he talk your ear off? Marty likes to talk.
Yeah, he likes to talk, but he's a little bit eccentric too, right? So yes. It was, I sat next to Joe Flacco to and from the combine the year he got drafted. That was interesting.
Okay.
Yeah. But anyway, moving on. Let's get into the coaching staff first. I want to remind everybody to download the top-rated DraftKings Sportsbook app today. Use the code ITB to get all of your sign-up bonuses. That's code ITB to get all of your sign-up bonuses only on the top-rated DraftKings Sportsbook app. All right, we mentioned the offensive coordinators in the spot. Shane Steichen. Is it Steichen or Steichen?
No, Steichen. Yeah, Shane Steichen. He was their interim OC. As we first discussed on our last Friday morning show of his targets, Steichen was big because he wanted someone that called plays. He wants someone he's comfortable with, and that's the big part, is the comfortable with someone he knows who knows what to expect. Yes, it's there's nothing wrong with bringing in coaches that you haven't coached with before. Mm-hmm. Maybe you've met at the Senior Bowl Combine or on the road, but you also want to know when you have a difficult quarterback situation. When you're coaching quarterback, you don't know. Steichen had to coach a rookie quarterback. Now, I know that he wasn't the quarterback's coach, but he called the plays, and he did a good job considering. Be careful reading a couple of people said something to me on Twitter about, what about this fan said on a fan board about guy crushed Steichen. Don't worry about it, folks. This guy's a respected coach. I understand the last month or so, the numbers went down for Justin Herbert. It's true. That's a fact. But this guy did a really good job under difficult circumstances. So,
I mean, I can't say I'm sold on the fact that he's going to be a wonderful offensive coordinator. Yeah. I can just say that I don't know. I'm not going to talk about what I don't know. But at least
he's done it and did a solid job. That's the key.
That
now,
is fair.
Like you said, he's new to this market. He's new to the staff. He's new to this quarterback. These quarterbacks, quite frankly, because Hurts is there too. He's the number 2, so they both got to be coached. And then the passing game coordinator is going to be Kevin Patullo. We told you last Friday morning. This is a guy he wanted. This is a guy he got. And let me tell you how badly he wanted this guy. The guy was on the flight over.
What?
Yeah, he was on his flight Monday morning. Yeah, it was.
How did you know that? That's incredible.
Yeah, Patullo. Like I had a very good Colts source tell me this is the guy. This is his guy. He explained, look, every head coach has a right-hand man. It doesn't mean that. I mean, his role is passing game coordinator. It was passing game analyst, passing game specialist. Last season, he was the receivers coach in 18 and 19 before Mike Rowe got there. But this is a guy he feels great about, and he wanted him on his staff. And he did coach quarterbacks in 15 and 16 for the Jets under Todd Bowles. Yeah. So, okay, we'll see. But it's a guy they trust. He's there for a reason, and that's that.
John Clark's got to be jealous, man. You beat him to an airport scoop. That's pretty cool.
I mean, he was on his flight. What's the big deal?
I'm just messing around.
Yeah.
Kevin Patullo was born in Hillsborough, New Jersey. I don't know if you knew that.
Is that right? No, I don't. My Colts source gave me the 411 on the situation. He gave me the guys he thought would be on the list, and he's pretty good. So far, he's 2 for 2. Yeah.
So I used to live in the neighboring town of Hillsborough, New Jersey.
Where is that? Where is that?
It's right next to Somerville in Somerset County, kind of central Jersey.
Okay.
Well, I mean, up here or down here, you'd call it North Jersey, but
gotcha.
But also from Hillsborough, New Jersey, Ricky Prohl and Sean Mayer. Remember Sean Mayer, the safety for the New England Patriots? He went to
Sean who?
Where do you go? Penn State, I think.
I don't know.
That name doesn't ring a bell. He played
Sean
safety for the
Mayer?
Patriots. He was not a Pro Bowl player.
I don't know.
Yeah. Anyway, so
Gotcha.
it's interesting. I gotta connect with this guy and see if we know any
There you
of
go.
the same people. So let's look at this then. So they've got, as you mentioned, they have a quarterback coach opening. They have a running backs coach opening. And here's the weird thing, right? A lot of position coaches for the Eagles, they had assistants. There was an assistant offensive line coach. They didn't have an assistant running backs coach, right?
Okay. Is that right? I don't even remember. But before we get to the positions, I do want to add one thing. Just checking into it, I believe they may hire, or he may hire, Sirianni, a senior offensive assistant. They don't have that on staff right now because Morningweg was not brought back.
Right.
So I was told that he's considering it. I don't know that he'll do it, but that's what we were saying to start our show today, is that it really would behoove him to have a veteran guy like a Tom Clements, who was brought in by Cliff Kingsbury, the Cardinals head coach. He's no longer with them. He left. Or Ken Wisenhunt, someone like that who's out there, who Sirianni knows.
How about Mike McCoy? Mike McCoy was out there.
Yeah, exactly. That's a great one. Yeah. By the way, he interviewed for the Eagles head coaching job in
the year that Chip Kelly got it, right?
13. Thank you. Yes. That's a great one. In fact, a former Eagles backup quarterback in training camp in '99. How about that?
Oh, shoot, that one even eluded me. Congratulations on that one. I forgot about that. You start to obviously look at Chargers and maybe Colts connections to see if someone's there.
Yeah, it's somebody.
Jim Caldwell.
Right.
I would love to see Jim Caldwell join this staff. Although he's got
the best one. Why not him? He's Super Bowl winning offensive coordinator. His coach quarterbacks. He'd be the best. He's out there on Twitter, by the way.
He got 2 rings, right? Jim Caldwell?
Colts and Ravens. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, he's out there interviewing for head coaching jobs. Yeah,
What's
he
that?
Would definitely be a great one. He interviewed for the Texans head coaching job.
Yeah, I know. Why? I don't know. Someone needs to help Sirianni. Someone needs to get in his ear. Hey, dude, Jim Caldwell's out there. This is a no-brainer.
Yeah.
Hire this guy.
So I heard that wide receivers coach Aaron Moorhead, who's just completed his first year,
as we go to
has talked to Nick Sirianni. It took a while, but he finally did have a conversation with Sirianni. And I was told that it went well, but right now he's like a couple of these other coaches on the staff, Adam, where they're all just kind of waiting to find out if they're going to be the guy or if there's somebody Sirianni is looking to bring in. I do feel like the longer it goes, this is just my speculation, right? You just know how this works.
Yeah.
The longer it goes, it almost favors guys who are holdovers because it's hard to people are under contract. They need commitments from their own team. You brought this up last year, I think, talking about Harbaugh getting annoyed by James. Was it James Urban who talked to the Eagles? And
I was told by a Raven source he had enough. He's like, you're not waiting
because they were taking too long, right? I mean, you get these guys want to know who their coaches are going to be and whether they're coming or going. So I don't know. Can't say for certain what that means for Moorhead or Matt Burke. As we switch to the defense here.
Well, actually, let's hang on. Let's go through. Let's start. Okay, so here the jobs are. Let's start on offense. Here's what's open.
Okay.
So they filled offensive coordinator. They filled passing game coordinator.
Right.
Not that you need to have one, but that's what Patullo will be. Okay.
Right.
Now we'll have to learn, and we'll hear what Sirianni says about Patullo's role. Hopefully, he'll define it when he has his press conference this week. Is he going to be involved with the quarter? Who's going to coach the quarterbacks? Okay, we'll get that in a second. Quarterback coach is open. Okay. Running backs is open. Duce Staley is left.
Right.
They interviewed Curtis Monken, but that was for offensive coordinator. I think he's still under contract in Denver. So I don't know.
I think you're right. I
don't know. Geoff, you just updated. Moorhead's under contract. You just said that he did talk to Moorhead. Did talk to Sirianni, so maybe he stays. We'll see. Tight end's open because Justin Peel left to join the Falcons.
Now you brought up.
I'm sorry.
Real quick, you had a name in one of our pods recently, an Iowa State guy.
Oh, Tom Manning. Yeah, I checked into it. He's still there. As of Tuesday night, he was still there, and it's not leaving. So unless something happens, I know he's got a very strong relationship with Sirianni. He's a really good coach. He's the OC at Iowa State.
And he's coached tight ends before, right?
Yes, with the Colts for one season. Apparently, he was terrific, is what I was told. But it's still open. Geoff Stoutland was retained as the offensive line coach. Special teams is open, as you said, with Dave Fipp moving on, and now we can move to defense.
Wait, real quick, special teams. I wonder, that's one of the few I guess, spots that you don't know who rising candidates are because there's
Oh
not
yeah,
a lot of attention paid. I
yeah.
remember when the Eagles got Dave Fipp, he was the assistant special teams coach to
Niners
whoever was the guy in Miami. No, he was with Miami.
Okay.
He was on Joe Philbin's
Okay, that was a
staff.
hell of a hire. My God, he was a stud
Yeah,
for
it was
many
a good
years.
hire. I mean, for
Yeah,
the
it was
first
a
few
great hire.
years, they had great special teams.
That's actually a really good point because when you look at, I give this was a Chip Kelly staff, if I'm not mistaken, right? He hired him in 13.
Yes.
To find, and I don't know who found him. Although I know Tom Gamble worked for the Niners and knew him with the Niners, so maybe Gamble had a influence of bringing him in. But that's a hell of a hire to find an assistant special teams coach that's on the rise, and that's a great hire by Chip. Then I'll tell you what, Chip didn't work out for Chip, but he had a heck of not a great staff, but a good staff. His opening staff.
Did Fipp coach with the Niners at one point?
He did. Yes, he did.
Oh,
he
I
did.
didn't realize that. Okay.
Yeah, because I talked to Gamble years ago. I ran into him somewhere, and he told me that
Gotcha.
he knew him. But anyway, Tom is now, by the way, with the Jaguars.
He is.
Defensive staff. So what we do know is they have a defense coordinator, Jonathan Gannon, who is the former Colts DB/cornerbacks coach.
Mm-hmm.
This is, it's kind of a strong statement, and I might wind up eating these words in 2 years if the guy sucks. But as one person said to me, and I thought it was terrific, so I stole the line. He goes, "This is the next Brandon Staley of defensive coordinators." Just because he's on the rise. He's kind of like Marcus Brady was the Colts quarterbacks coach who was promoted to OC. He's going to be a head coach someday, some people think, with the Colts. So Gannon's another high riser. So that's a good hire. But again, guys haven't been a D coordinator before, so we'll have to see.
Yeah, I guess we will. I was going to say, if this guy's that good, then what's Reich doing over there? Not at least trying to promote him, but they obviously have one of the best defensive coordinators in the game.
Eberflus is terrific.
So,
yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Now, it'll be a shame if Eberflus winds up getting that Texans job, because I know he's in the running after they've already lost Gannon. That would be a lot like the way the Eagles lost Frank Reich late in the process because he took the Colts job that Josh McDaniels gave up on. Remember?
Yes. Oh, my God. And the funny thing is Reich was not even on the initial list.
I know.
Yeah,
crazy
how things work out.
All right, so there's this potential of adding Tracy Rocker.
That's done. I was told that was done.
Okay.
I don't know if he signed the contract, but I just know that he agreed to come in. And what the funny thing is, if you check his bio, he's had 3 D-line jobs in 2 years because he just joined. He was South Carolina last season. I think he wanted to go to Tennessee.
No, it's almost like 3 in 2 weeks, right? Because he just left. He just left South Carolina to go to Auburn. So I don't even think he's coached a game for Auburn. He's leaving Auburn after just a week ago becoming their coach.
It's crazy. Eagles. So so Gannon and Rocker coach with the Titans. Rocker is their D-line coach for like 2 or 3 years with the Titans, and Gannon and Rocker know each other. It's kind of what happens is coaches always tell me, they're like, "Hey man, if I ever get this job, I want to bring you in." I'm speculating a little bit here. That's what happened with Gannon and Rocker.
Yeah.
Because why else would Rocker come in? And as we've said, before in the show, over the years, that these college coaches, even position coaches, get paid sometimes better than they do in the pros. But I guess they're tight, and that's why he came in.
Yeah, I guess so. Is he fiery? I get the sense that just from reading about Tracy Rocker a little bit.
I remember as a player, Tracy Rocker, D-end. Yeah,
that's right. That is right. A friend of mine sent me a clip of on YouTube of Brett Favre's best one-liners, and the first one is it's Favre and Rocker. I think they're talking or something like that, and he's
Tracy
doing an
Rocker,
impression. Yeah, he's doing the that's what he's doing. He's doing the Keith Jackson impression, and Tracy Rocker's name came up
because he was a tremendous college football player,
right?
And I don't know how Favre knew that, and he did because that's from NFL Films on a sideline, right, on like a preseason game or something.
Yes, yeah,
it's hilarious, absolutely hilarious.
By the way, also funny is that Auburn's head coach, when he announced the whole new staff, the press conference last Thursday, he was kind of glowing about getting Rocker, and he made a mention that he bleeds orange and blue.
Well,
a week later, he's in midnight green.
What a joke! I don't know.
Oh, man.
So the linebackers coach is open because Ken Flagel asked out of his contract. Now the question is, Matt Burke is still under contract,
right? Right.
The thing I don't understand is with the Sirianni. I mean, I know it was Burke's first year coaching D linemen. Well, the statistics in terms of pressures, they were either number 1 or number 2 in the National Football League. Why would you keep him there?
I would. I mean, I really think I'm actually surprised of all the coaching openings or voids or interviews. I'm surprised this one wasn't done pretty quickly. Now, I don't know. Maybe Matt, because Matt and Jim Schwartz were really close. So maybe Jim Schwartz's departure made Matt kind of want to go somewhere else or look for a job. Maybe he wanted to be a D coordinator again. I don't know. But at this point, I don't know what's open that Matt would want around the league, but the linebackers coach is his pedigree.
Yeah.
He never was a defensive line coach until last year. He only did it because of Jim Schwartz's presence anyway. So
he was going to go to the Lions. What's the guy's name? God damn it. The guy was the DB's coach for here for years, and he went to be the Lions. Corey Unlin. Corey
Unlin. Yeah.
Corey Unlin was going to hire him, I'm told, as his either I think it was linebackers coach, right. And they knew it, so they had to promote him because remember he was a special assistant before the 2020 season. So the Eagles, to keep him, they offered him a D-line coach job, right. And whatever title they gave him. It was D-line plus something else. I don't know, whatever that was.
But I don't think if Jim Schwartz was not here, he wouldn't have. I think he probably would have taken up.
Oh, he would have. Yeah, exactly. Right. I'm just saying.
That's my point. He took it.
He did it. Detroit.
Yeah, my point was he did it because he's close with Jim.
Yeah.
So he did the defensive line thing.
Sure.
I was told once Jim was gone that he didn't want to coach defensive line again.
Is that right? God, he did Is that right? I didn't know that. Yeah. He did a great job.
I've said it on this pod a couple of times, but that's okay.
No, but hang on. So despite a new coaching staff, a new head coach, he's gonna make it known that he doesn't want to coach D-line anymore. Okay.
Well, look, maybe things change now that you're this deep in the process, but that's what I had heard a couple of weeks ago that he did
a great job. I mean, considering.
Well, that's the thing. Maybe, I'm not, maybe with Jim here, and Jim is kind of a de facto defensive line coach as well as a coordinator. Maybe he was more hands-on.
Okay.
Schwartz. So I don't know, but but again, to the point, it's a natural pairing. He's a linebackers coach by pedigree, and they have a position open there. So you would think that you want to get that done quickly.
Yes. And one thing, folks, if you're new to our show, we appreciate all the new subscribers. We've got about 700 new subscribers on our YouTube page. Our YouTube numbers have tripled in the last 6 weeks. And this is what happens, I guess, when there's a coaching change. But if you did not hear our Monday morning show, if you're new to us, listen to our Monday show because Geoff and I went over Jonathan Gannon and his background. And I gave you his influences and what I'd heard from a couple coaches who think this is what they think he's going to do. So make sure you listen to that if you didn't hear it. But the linebackers coach is open. And then Geoff, Marquand Manuel's still under contract. And this is a guy who needs to know what his future is. So we'll see.
Don't you think that for the sake of continuity and development, it's so hard to develop players at certain positions when you're constantly shuffling? We've talked about wide receiver and how hard it's been for this team to develop wide receivers. And part of that being that they got a different coach. A different coach brings new ideas, brings new techniques, perhaps different perspectives. And when you're constantly shuffling guys in and out, you get no continuity. And I just feel like it would be smart of Nick, and he may have some guys in mind, but to really consider keeping Marquand Manuel, keeping Burke, keeping Aaron Moorhead for these reasons. Just give them at least another year, because they've been here, evaluate them. And then if you feel like you got to make a move. But you may think you're helping the team, but you could be hurting the team, at least in year one, by pushing the reset button yet again on a position coach.
Yeah. And you're right. And when you look at Marquand Manuel, right? The guy was only 1 year, but he was a D coordinator for the Falcons.
Mm-hmm.
Give him a shot. And it's what GMs typically do is they don't fire many personnel people that they inherit. Like, for instance, if you're a GM who comes in January, you're almost certain not to fire anyone. You fire very few people because you want to evaluate them over 3 or 4 months, and then after the draft, you get rid of them if you don't like them.
Right.
So yeah, it's a good point, man. I don't know Sirianni, so I don't know what his thought process is, but he should keep some of these. I understand very few coaches are going to be retained, but maybe let's say 3 or 4 are retained or 5. Good. Now the other thing is, before we get out of here, you mentioned it earlier.
Wait, hold that thought.
I'm sorry.
Hold that thought.
Yeah.
It sounds like a really good thought.
Uh-oh.
And also, it's a good time for me to tell people, Get that 20% off and free shipping using that promo code ITB at our friends at manscaped.com for all the best below the belt grooming needs. You got to go to manscaped.com and you must use the promo code ITB to get yourself 20% off and free shipping. That's a great deal. Everybody take us up on it. All right. What were you going to say?
No, all I was going to say is also Tim Houck is still under contract. So we don't know if he's the safeties coach, but
right.
We don't know because, as I understand it, Pederson was the one who wanted all these assistants, to the position coaches. Mm-hmm. We passed on it earlier in the show. I don't know if that's going to go by the wayside because most teams don't do that. You might have a couple assistant position coaches, but most teams don't do that. So I'll be fascinated to see what happens here with. It's not a big deal, but I find it interesting to see what Sirianni's going to do here. Does he keep, like Matt Harper was assistant receivers and assistant special teams? Does he keep him around? Look, he was on Chip's staff, so he's been here forever. He's not been a full-time position coach.
Right. I have to correct myself, by the way. The Eagles do have a assistant running backs coach. It's TJ Pagnetti.
Oh, Pagnetti.
I think he's related to Ryan Pagnetti, who was the analytics guy.
All right.
So maybe TJ Pagnetti will get a chance to take that role. They had an assistant tight ends coach, Adam. It was Mike Bartram.
Yes.
If you remember. I believe he left for a college head coaching job. Is that correct?
I believe he left. It might have been Marshall. I can't remember, but
I know
he
interviewed. I think he interviewed for Marshall, but I think it was a different college that hired.
But I know he's gone. I know yes. And that was a Doug Pederson hire. That was added a buddy of his. Mm-hmm. So that buddy system might be gone. Maybe they have just guys, just single position coaches. We'll by the way, that'll be something for the media. I hope they ask him. That's actually a really good question. I'm kind of interested to see what he does with that because, there was a running joke around the league that the assistants have assistants. I love that line. That's hilarious. Anyway,
it is kind of funny. Wait, I might be wrong about this. Is Bartram still on the staff? I thought he took a job.
I'll double check right now, but I don't think so.
I really thought he took a job. But anyway, I'll double check on that. I'm trying to think. Nate Ollie, he was a defensive lineman.
Jets, yes.
But he left for the Jets, right?
Yes.
So they don't have.
Technically, he interviewed for the Marshall head coaching opening. I guess technically you could say Bartram's still under contract. Mm-hmm. But I don't. I'd be kind of surprised if he stayed here because he doesn't know him, and he was an assistant. Do you really need two tight end coaches? I mean, I don't understand.
Well, we made the joke that they only had two healthy tight ends. At several times during the season, so it was almost ridiculous. Active tight ends, I should say. Of course, they had guys on the practice squad, but that was kind of funny. It's like one coach per tight end. All right, anything else left to cover here? By the way, do you think Howie will be at the press conference too, or it'll just be Jeffrey and?
Well, here's the question: Do they do it virtually? Mm-hmm. Because I watched Arthur Smith. Arthur Smith did his virtually.
Right.
The GM did his virtually, and so did the owner, and so did Rich McKay, the president of the Falcons. I watched a couple of these; they're all virtual. Nothing was done in person.
Right.
So you wonder, will they do it in the in auditorium at the NovaCare complex? By the way, if you go to the Eagles website, you could see Sirianni's. It's kind of cool. Like you see him going through, like getting off the plane and all that stuff. If you like that stuff, that's important. If you like that kind of little, I watched. It was kind of neat. See,
I would say there was a questionable jacket and
he wore like a navy
combination there.
Yeah, but anyway, look, it's a new beginning here. Since this is our third year, folks. If you're new to us, we never had to talk about a new head coach. It's kind of interesting, and we appreciate your dedication to our show. We're kind of blown away by our numbers this week. And as I said earlier, getting a new head coach has something to do with it. We get it.
Absolutely. We thank you all. And as we, I did this a while back, when 9 months ago, I want to, bring it back again. A big thank you to everyone out there who's a frontline worker, who's an essential worker, a non-essential worker who's working, everybody trying to get through the pandemic. And hopefully we're getting closer to the end here as the vaccine comes in. But thanks for everybody who's stuck with us along the way. And kept spirits up. So it's been a real pleasure for both Adam and I to do this for you. And we look forward to as the summer gets deeper, maybe having announcements about what we're going to be doing.
Oh, we got something planned
with Inside the Birds. We always got something planned.
Oh, yeah, it can't. We need this damn pandemic then, man. We want to see people, man. Can't wait to see y'all this summer.
That's right. All right, that's going to do it for this episode of Inside the Birds, the leading podcast in Eagles Intel. Thanks to our producer, Hunter Brody. Check him out on YouTube. His channel is called Sports Talk with Broads. His Twitter account is @Broads81. And as always, we thank you for flying with us inside the Birds.